If you're struggling with your quality of strike, whether that is hitting the ground first, heavy strikes, or thinning it, topping it, it is probably down to your lateral movement off the golf ball. You're creating too much sway or slide. We often see this type of movement with the pelvis, whereas we really want to coil up better. Now I have for you the absolute best and simplest feel you could ever use to stop that swaying motion. It's going to transform your strike, really help you get that ball toe contact we're looking for. And it's going to sound a little strange, but actually if we want to stop our pelvis swaying off the golf ball too much to create more of this movement, we actually need to feel like our trail foot is moving away from the target. You heard me right. I know that sounds a bit counterintuitive, but we will get that opposite force from the ground. So we're pushing into the ground is pushing back, and it's really going to help us center our hips. So I want you to do this as a drill. I'm coming over to this area just because it's a little more slippery. I was getting a bit too much friction there. So what I want to try and do from a normal setup is I'm going to try and actually slide my trail foot away. And look what happens as I make that golf swing. This hip actually starts turning back on itself. Can you see how we've got a little bit more of my left bum cheek here, almost towards the target? So when I'm trying to slide this foot out and apply some pressure down into that trail foot, I'm actually going to find that my pelvis is more centered and starting to rotate as it should. So we'd start to see that my hips are moving back towards the target earlier than my upper body, and that is a key movement we see with all elite golfers, top of the backswing. They don't wait to shift their pressure until the downswing. They start shifting it early. So it's a great drill, it's a great exercise. If you just put an alignment stick in the ground, just running up the outside edge of your trail leg, your trail foot here. So we're going to leave maybe an inch or so gap from the top of the hip to the cane. Now I don't mind a little bump, but our hip should at the top start to move away. And now I've created a bigger gap, more like 2 to 3 inches. So my pelvis is moving a little bit away from the target, but very early in the takeaway here. So we don't mind that little bump away from the target to help us start moving the golf club, put some momentum in the golf club. It's not just hands and arms. Look what that looks like. Terrible. If I don't use my body at all to move that golf club, we're not going to be very efficient. So we want to feel like we start to use our body, and that's going to cause that little bit of bump here laterally into the cane. But as I start to apply some pressure, I just want you to feel like you're pushing that trail foot backwards, okay? Really applying some ground pressure into that trail foot. Look what starts to happen. Bigger gap. Now my hips are actually closer to the target than my upper body. My center of my upper body, my sternum, my central lower body, my pelvis is actually beating my sternum to the golf ball. We definitely want ground up, don't we? We want to start our downswing with the ground first. Our hips, then our core, then our chest, then our arms, then our hand, then the club, in that sequence, not upper body first. But we've got to do it way earlier than you think. So little bump, great to move that golf club. But as I start to apply some force, as if I'm pushing my trail foot backwards, now look what happens at the top. That's the position we're really looking for. My hips are already starting to move towards the target. My pressure is already starting to even out. So I hit my maximum amount of pressure onto my trail foot quite early, quarter to halfway back. As my arms are finishing, my pelvis is already starting to move towards the target. My pressure is already back to about 50-50. Now I can really move into that lead side. And a key here is by the time we get into impact, we actually want our hips, our pelvis, to be 4 to 6 inches ahead of where they start. And that's true iron and drive. Actually drive a little bit more than iron, 5 to 7, but we definitely want our pelvis forwards towards the target. We're not looking for this type of movement hanging back. So just doing that as an exercise, let's hit one doing it. Okay, so you'll see that inch or so gap. I'm going to feel like I bump it for sure as I start to move that golf club away, using my body to move the golf club. But I'm really feeling like I'm pushing my trail foot back. Look what the ground does. pushes back. And my hip, my trail hip is actually going up and behind me, so it's starting to rotate correctly rather than this type of swaying movement. So push that trail foot out and we can start to coil correctly. Now, did you hear that? That was ball turf, downward blow, loads of compression, felt amazing. Exactly the sensation I want to get. So I'd start with doing some exercises, and this is going to sound strange and feel a little bit counterintuitive, but you do it with me and you'll get the sensation. I want you to feel like as you move that golf club away, you slide that trail foot. And you'll feel that your hips work very differently, almost starting to work away from that trail foot. They're starting to move towards the target. They're starting to push back with that ground reaction. Then get an alignment stick in the ground. Do get yourself on video from face on. If you could draw a couple of lines, draw them down from the outside edges of your hips diagonally down to the outside edges of your foot, and just look how the pelvis moves. A little early bump is fine as we move that golf club, but now I've created a bigger gap here. I've already started going towards the target. Don't wait too long or too late to start your downswing. Let me show you that again. Again, loads of compression, very much a downward blow, ball turf contact. It's massively going to improve your iron strike. It's got to. If you're someone who's swaying, sliding too much, give those feels a go. I know it's going to transform your game. If it does, please put a comment below. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Don't forget now to subscribe to my channel for more content just like this.